Today, I thought I would look at every year of this century so far, except for 2021, and look at their best animated movie for the year. So let's get into it. Before we end this, please do help my channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. It's free and it takes less than a second. Just click it. Also, leave a like if you do enjoy this video and comment what are some of your favorite animated movies of all time. Now, some of these years it was hard to pick a best movie because either there were so many great movies or there just wasn't any that I was that familiar with. But this is probably the video that took me the longest to make out of my whole channel because I had to look through each year, every animated movie that came out that year. I had to pick the best one and the ones that were coming close to that. So for about every year, I had to write a whole script for this. This video took me a while to get ready, but I'm gonna stop talking and let's get into 2000. So in the year 2000, I went with The Emperor's New Groove. This is one of those years that there wasn't a lot of other movies to choose from. And this movie, I love this movie. I think it's hilarious. I just think it's one of the Disney's better animated movies of the 2000s. I just think this movie's hilarious with a lot of great characters. And then for 2001, I could have gone with Monsters, Inc. That's my honorable mention. But for 2001, I chose Shrek. Shrek, to me, is almost a perfect movie. I think this movie is absolutely hilarious. I think the voice cast is great. The story's awesome. The adventure, the fantasy of it, it's a parody movie. It's just all around a great movie. Only beating out Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. could have easily won this. I just think that Shrek is a better movie. And then 2002 is Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. I love this movie. I think what they do with the horse characters and having them not speak, I think that is it's a very cool choice that they did. And my honorable mention for 2002 would only be Ice Age, and even that, I just thought I'd mention it. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Ice Age, because when I was a kid, I thought it was kind of boring, or when I was younger, but I just thought I'd mention it because I know that is a lot of people's favorite Ice Age movie. Now, 2003, nothing came close to Finding Nemo. I think Finding Nemo is a great movie. I think every character in here is excellent and outstanding. I think the tank gang's funny. I think that Marlin, Nemo, and Dory are all really great characters, and this movie's just fun adventure with great message, and it's really quite emotional. 2004. I could have went with The Incredibles or Shark Tale. I know Shark Tale is a bad movie, but I did grow up loving that movie. Not a good movie anymore. But for 2004, I went with one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Shrek 2. I love Shrek 2. I think it is a perfect movie, one of the best sequels of all time. The soundtrack, they incorporate the music so great in this movie. Every character is hilarious. This is probably the animated movie that I've laughed at the most. This movie's so funny, even on rewatch, and I can't express how much I love Shrek 2. Now, 2005, there really were no honorable mentions, but for 2005, I went with Madagascar. This is another one of those movies I grew up with. I love this franchise. I think that this movie is really funny, and the voice cast, with Ben Stiller, Chris Rock, David Schwimmer, Jada Pinkett Smith, I just think Sacha Baron Cohen, Cedric the Entertainer, Andy Richter, it's just a great, hilarious cast, and this movie really holds up to me. The animation isn't as good, to today's standards, and some of the pop culture references are really outdated, but, it's a fun movie. And yeah, Madagascar is the best animated movie of 2005. 2006 was a hard year because it was between Flushed Away or Cars for which one would be the best for 2006. Now, And I also had some other honorable mentions, including Over the Hedge, Open Season, Ice Age, The Meltdown, and Barnyard. But I went with Flushed Away on this one because I think this is the better made movie compared to Cars. Now, Cars is really nostalgic for me, but as a movie, I think that Flushed Away just works better, and I think it definitely holds up a lot better than Cars. And it's from DreamWorks and Aardman, so the animation is spectacular. Now, 2007. This was probably one of the hardest years to find an animated movie. To choose the best one, because I could have went with Ratatouille, but I went with the Simpsons movie. Now, this is not a great movie, but it is one of my favorite movies of all time as well, because I love this movie. I've seen it countless times, and I'm a huge Simpsons fan, and this movie really did hold up for me, and I really do just love the Simpsons movie. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that decision, but me personally, I think the Simpsons movie is my favorite movie of 2007. Ratatouille is definitely the better movie, but I just think the Simpsons movie is more rewatchable. Ratatouille, though, is definitely one of the better Pixar movies. 2008, really no competition for me. Kung Fu Panda is the best movie of 2008, animated-wise. Now, I could have went with WALL-E or Madagascar 2, but Madagascar 2 is my least favorite Madagascar movie, and WALL-E I only recently started to love, but Kung Fu Panda I've loved since I was younger, and I still love it today. It is a great animated movie with a wacky premise that just works, and I cannot believe how good this movie actually turned out. And yeah, so Kung Fu Panda is for 2008. 2009, could have went with Princess and the Frog, Up, Monsters vs. Aliens, Ice Age 3, or Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. But I had to go with Fantastic Mr. Fox. This is just such a good movie. The stop motion in here is great. We have George Clooney and Meryl Streep starring as the leads, and it's just such a fantastic movie. No pun intended, but I just think it's so fun. It's so creative, and the story is so good. Also, I really love the book. I've read the book a couple times now. We read it a lot in school. You know, it's a great movie, Fantastic Mr. Fox. If you have not seen it, I would highly recommend it. 2010. This year had a lot of good movies, and I could have went with How to Train Your Dragon, Tangled, Despicable Me, Megamind, or Shrek Forever After. But I went with Toy Story 3, my favorite Pixar movie, and probably one of my favorite movies of all time as well, because this movie just ended the Andy trilogy so much in the Toy Story franchise. I do really love Toy Story 4, but I think that Toy Story 3 was the better ending, and I just think that Toy Story 3 fits the franchise so well, and it just does all the characters justice, and that is why I love Toy Story 3 a lot. 2011, no really competition, easily, Kung Fu Panda 2. This is way better than the first one, and I absolutely love the first one. Kung Fu Panda 2 is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. It's great. I think it's almost a perfect movie. Has some flaws. It's a little long in parts, but, it was that or Puss in Boots, Cars 2, or Rio. Cars 2, I really grew up on that movie, but I just don't think it'd be fair to put Cars 2 above even Rio. So, yeah, 2012. This is going to be probably controversial because Wreck-It Ralph, Madagascar 3, Ice Age, Continental Drift, and Rise of the Guardians all came out that year, but I went with Hotel Transylvania because this franchise I watched like on repeat, and this first movie holds up to this day, and I cannot wait for Hotel Transylvania 4, which is coming out this summer, and I'm so excited for that movie. But Hotel Transylvania, the original, is not my favorite. The second one's my favorite, but it's a really solid movie. Now, I was really close to putting Ice Age 4 for 2012, just because that was the first movie I've ever seen in the theater. So that movie is really special to me. But I had to go with Hotel Transylvania. Now, 2013, I went with Epic. This is a blue sky movie, and this movie is pretty epic. You got Aziz Ansari, Chris O'Dowd, Josh Hutcherson in here, Colin Farrell. It's Beyonce's in here. It's a great movie, and this movie gets a lot of hate. I think this is really close to being one of the best animated movies of all time. I don't think it is. It's a little boring and a little weird at times, but Epic is the best animated movie, in my opinion, for 2013. Frozen, Monsters University, and Despicable Me 2 also came out that year, but I just think Epic's the better movie. 2014, I went with How to Train Your Dragon 2. I love the How to Train Your Dragon movies. The second one's probably my favorite. I know it's not a lot of people's, it's normally their least favorite, but this movie, I don't know. The animation's beautiful, and the story of Hiccup and Toothless continues, and it is so great. Big Hero 6, the Lego Movie, Rio 2, and Mr. Peabody and Sherman also came out that year, but none of these compare to the greatness of How to Train Your Dragon 2. Now, 2015, I went with Hotel Transylvania 2. I think that this movie is the best Hotel Transylvania movie. I think what they do with the characters after the first one is so perfect, and I know it's not one of the best animated movies, but it is one of my favorites. So there you go. For 2015, I also could have went with Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, or the Peanuts movie, but I just think that Hotel Transylvania 2 is way more rewatchable. For 2016, I went with one of my all-time favorite movies, and that's Zootopia. This is kind of a crime animated movie, and I really love this movie. This is a perfect movie. In my opinion, perfect movie. Now, for 2016, I also could have gone with Moana, Finding Dory, Kung Fu Panda 3, Storks, or Sing. But Zootopia, to me, is, again, a perfect movie and definitely one of my all-time favorites. Now, 2017, I went with the Lego Batman movie, but there's also really great movies that came out this year, including Cars 3, Coco, Ferdinand, and Despicable Me 3. Now, Cars 3 was probably the closest because I think that's one of the better Pixar movies. But the Lego Batman movie is just so surprisingly fresh and so hilarious. And Will Arnett just does such a great job as a character that I think the Lego Batman movie has to be the best animated movie of 2017. And probably one of my favorite comic book movies. 2018, probably going to be my most controversial movie pick. Hotel Transylvania 3 came out this year, Spider-Verse, and Teen Titans Go to the Movies. I think all three of those are great movies, are really good. Teen Titans Go to the Movies being hilarious, Spider-Verse probably being one of my favorite comic book movies, and Hotel Transylvania 3 just being another entry in a franchise I love. But The Incredibles 2 I've seen so many times, and I think it's such a good sequel that I think it surpasses The Incredibles, which is an unpopular opinion. But I just think it's such a good movie that, I don't know, this movie to me, Jack is hilarious, Edna's great in here. It's just everything I love about The Incredibles amped up. So that's why I really do love this movie. 2018 had a lot of great animated movies, including the final entry in How to Train Your Dragon 3, but I had to go with Toy Story 4, another great Pixar movie. I just think this is such a solid movie. It's so funny, it's so heartfelt, and it just really takes the cake. And this is probably my second favorite of the Toy Story movies. The first two in the franchise are kind of weak in my opinion, but I think the final two in the Toy Story franchise are near perfect. But I think Toy Story 4 is a great movie. 2020, probably the weirdest year for movies. I went with Soul, but the only really two options that I had were Onward or the We Bare Bears movie, which I thought was only okay. Otherwise, the other movies like Wolfwalkers I haven't seen, but Soul is such a beautiful movie. The music is great. The voice acting spectacular. Onward was good. It was definitely good, but not to the greatness of Soul. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Tell me your favorite animated movies of all time down below in the comments. Let's have a discussion about that. Also, remember to hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and leave a like if you did enjoy this video. And may the force be with you.